Let us go." And so I took up my packet and paid the charges of the house and departed. And we had not gone a mile out of the town, but it was broad day. And then I diligently looked upon Socrates' throat to see if I could espy the place where Meroe thrust in her sword. But when I could not perceive any such thing, I thought with myself, what a mad man am I, that being overcome with wine yesternight have dreamed such terrible things. Behold, I see Socrates is sound, safe and in health. Where is his wound? Where is the sponge? Where is his great and new cut? And then I spake to him and said, Verily, it is not without occasion that physicians of experience do affirm that such as fill their gorges abundantly with meat and drink shall dream of dire and horrible sights. For I myself, not tempering my appetite yesternight from the pots of wine, did seem to see this night strange and cruel visions, that even yet I think myself sprinkled and wet with human blood, whereunto Socrates laughing made answer and said, Nay, thou art not wet with the blood of men, but art imbrued with stinking piss. And verily I dreamed that my throat was cut, and that I felt the pain of the wound, and that my heart was pulled out of my belly, and the remembrance thereof makes me now to fear, for my knees do so tremble that I can scarce go any further, and therefore I would fain eat somewhat to strengthen and revive my spirits. Then said I, Behold here thy breakfast, and therewithal I opened my script that hanged upon my shoulder, and gave him bread and cheese, and we sat down under a great plane tree, and I eat part with him. And while I beheld him eating greedily, I perceived that he waxed mager and pale, and that his lively color faded away, insomuch that being in great fear, and remembering those terrible furies of whom I lately dreamed, the first morsel of bread that I put in my mouth, that was but very small, did so stick in my jaws that I could neither swallow it down, nor yet yield it up. And moreover, the small time of our being together increased my fear. And what is he that seeing his companion die in the highway before his face would not greatly lament and be sorry? But when that Socrates had eaten sufficiently, he waxed very thirsty, for indeed he had well nigh devoured a whole cheese, and behold evil fortune. There was behind the plane tree a pleasant running water as clear as crystal, and I said unto him, Come hither, Socrates, to this water, and drink thy fill. And then he rose and came to the river, and kneeled down on the side of the bank to drink. But he had scarce touched the water with lips, when as behold the wound in his throat opened wide, and the sponge suddenly fell out into the water, and after issued out a little remnant of bloud, and his body being then without life, had fallen into the river. Had not I caught him by the leg, and so pulled him up? And after that I had lamented a good space the death of my wretched companion, I buried him in the sands there by the river. Which done, in great fear I rode through many outways and desart places, and as culpable of the death of Socrates, I forsook my country, my wife, and my children, and came to Aetolia, where I married another wife. This tale told Aristomenes, and his fellow, which before obstinately would give no credit unto him, began to say, Verily there was never so foolish a tale, nor a more absurd lie told than this. And then he spake unto me, saying, Ho, sir, what you are I know not. But your habit and countenance declareth that you should be some honest gentleman, speaking to Apuleius. Do you believe this tale? Yea, verily, quoth I. Why not? For whatsoever the fates have appointed to men, that I believe shall happen. For may things chance unto me and unto you, and to divers others, which being declared unto the ignorant be accounted as lies. But verily I give credit unto his tale, and render entire thanks unto him, in that by the pleasant relation thereof we have quickly passed. How Apuleius came unto a city named Hippate, and was lodged in one Milos' house, and brought him letters from one Demeas of Corinth. After that those two companions were departed, I entered into the city, where I espied an old woman, of whom I inquired whether that city was called Hippata or no, who answered, Yes. Then I demanded whether she knew one Milo, an alderman of the city, whereat she laughed and said, Verily it is not without cause that Milo is called an elderman, and accounted as chief of those which dwell without the walls of the city. To whom I said again, I pray thee, good mother, do not mock, but tell me what manner of man he is, and where he dwelleth. Mary, quoth she, do you see these bay windows, which on one side abut to the gates of the city, and on the other side to the next lane? There Milo dwelleth, very rich both in money and substance, But by reason of his great avarice and insatiable covetousness, he is evil spoken of, and he is a man that liveth all by usury, and lending his money upon pledges. Moreover, he dwelleth in a small house, and is ever counting his money, and hath a wife that is a companion of his extreme misery. Neither keepeth he more in his house than only one maid, who goeth apparelled like unto a beggar. Which when I heard, I laughed in myself, and thought, in faith my friend Demeus hath served me well, which hath sent me, being a stranger, unto such a man, in whose house I shall not be afeard either of smoke or of the scent of meat. And therewithal I rode to the door, which was fast barred, and knocked aloud. Then there came forth a maid, which said, Ho, sirrah, that knocks so fast, in what kind of sort will you borrow money? Know you not that we use to take no gage, unless it be either plate or jewels? To whom I answered, I pray you, maid, speak more gently, and tell me whether thy master be within or no. Yes, quoth she, that he is. Why do you ask? Mary, said I am come from Corinth, and have brought him letters from Demeus his friend. Then said the maid, I pray you tarry here till I tell him so, and therewithal she closed fast the door and went in. And after a while she returned again, and said, My master desireth you to alight and come in. And so I did, whereas I found him sitting upon a little bed going to supper, and his wife sat at his feet, but there was no meat upon the table. And so by appointment of the maid I came to him and saluted him, and delivered the letters which I had brought from Demeus. Which when he had read, he said, Verily, I thank my friend Demeus much, in that he hath sent me so worthy a guest as you are. And therewithal he commanded his wife to sit away and bid me sit in her place, which when I refused by reason of courtesy, he pulled me by my garment and willed me to sit down. For we have, quoth he, no other stool here, nor no other great store of household stuff, for fear of robbing. Then I, according to his commandment, sate down, and he fell in further communication with me, and said, Verily I do conjecture by the comely feature of your body, and by the maidenly shamefastness of your face, that you are a gentleman born, as my friend Demeus hath no less declared the same in his letters. Wherefore I pray you take in good part our poor lodging, and behold yonder chamber is at your commandment. Use it as your own, and if you be contented therewithal, you shall resemble and follow the virtuous qualities of your good father Theseus, who disdained not the slender and poor cottage of Hecates. And then he called his maid, which was named Fotis, and said, Carry this gentleman's packet into the chamber, and lay it up safely, and bring water quickly to wash him, and a towel to rub him, and other things necessary. And then bring him to the next bains, for I know that he is very weary of travel. These things when I heard, I partly perceived the manners of Milo, and endeavoring to bring myself further into his favor, I said, Sir, there is no need of any of these things, for they have been everywhere ministered unto me by the way, howbeit I will go into the bains. But my chiefest care is that my horse be well looked to. For he brought me hither roundly, and therefore I pray thee, Fotis, take this money, and buy some hay and oats for him. The 7th chapter. How Apuleius, going to buy fish, met with his companion Pythias. When this was done, and all my things brought into the chamber, I walked towards the bains. But first I went to the market to buy some victuals for my supper, whereas I saw great plenty of fish set out to be sold. And so I cheapened part thereof, and that which they at first held at 100 pence, I bought at length for 20. Which when I had done, and was departing away, one of mine old acquaintance and fellow at Athens named Pythias fortuned to pass by, and viewing me at a good space, in the end brought me to his remembrance, and gently came and kissed me, saying, O my dear friend Lucius, it is a great while past since we two saw one another, and moreover, from the time that we departed from our master Vestius, I never heard any news from you. I pray you, Lucius, tell me the cause of your peregrination hither. Then I answered and said, I will make relation thereof unto you tomorrow. But I pray you tell me, what meaneth these servitors that follow you, and these rods or verges which they bear, and this habit which you wear like unto a magistrate? Verily I think you have obtained your own desire, whereof I am right glad. Then answered Pythias, I bear the office of the clerk of the market, and therefore if you will have any pittance for your supper, speak, and I will purvey it for you. Then I thanked him heartily, and said I had bought meat sufficient already. But Pythias, when he espied my basket wherein my fish was, took it and shaked it, and demanded of me what I had paid for all my sprots. In faith, quoth I could scarce enforce the fishmonger to sell them for 20 pence. Which when I heard, he brought me back again into the market, and inquired of me of whom I bought them. I showed him the old man which sate in a corner, whom by and by reason of his office, he did greatly blame, and said, Is it thus you serve and handle strangers, and specially our friends? Wherefore sell you this fish so dear, which is not worth a half a penny? Now perceive I well that you are an occasion to make this place, which is the principal city of all Thessaly, to be forsaken of all men, and to reduce it into an uninhabitable desert, by raison of your excessive prices of victuals. But assure yourself that you shall not escape without punishment, and you shall know what mine office is, and how I ought to punish such as offend. Then he took my basket and cast the fish on the ground, and commanded one of his sergeants to tread them under his feet. This done, he persuaded me to depart, and said that only shame and reproach done unto the old caitiff did suffice him. So I went away amazed and astonied towards the banes, considering with myself and devising of the grace of my companion Pythias. Where when I had well washed and refreshed my body, I returned again to Milo's house, both without money and meat, and so got into my chamber. Then came Fotis immediately unto me, and said that her master desired me to come to supper. But I, not ignorant of Milo's abstinence, prayed that I might be pardoned, since, as I thought best to ease my wearied bones rather with sleep and quietness than with meat. When Fotis had told this to Milo, he came himself and took me by the hand, and while I did modestly excuse myself, I will not, quoth he, depart from this place, until such time as you shall go with me. And to confirm the same, he bound his words with an oath, whereby he enforced me to follow him. And so he brought me into his chamber, where he sat him down upon the bed, and demanded of me how his friend Demeas did, his wife, his children, and all his family. And I made answer to him every question. Specially he inquired the causes of my peregrination and travel, which when I had declared, he yet busily demanded of the state of my country, and the chief magistrates there, and principally of our lieutenant and viceroy, who when he perceived that I was not only wearied by travel, but also with talk, and that I fell asleep in the midst of my tale, and further that I spake nothing directly or advisedly, he suffered me to depart to my chamber. So scaped I at length from the prating and hungry supper of this rank old man, and being compelled by sleep and not by meat, and having supped only with talk, I returned into my chamber, and there betook me to my quiet and long-desired rest.